that was created in partnership with Photo Alliance and the San Francisco Arts Commission. And we're so thankful to the Arts Commission on behalf of Photo Alliance, that to have this exhibition, which launched earlier this year and really is extending now past June 20th into about mid-August. So if you haven't seen the exhibition, please do. I'm Beth Waldman. I'm an SFAI alum as well, and I'm on the board of Photo Alliance. And I just wanted to give everyone a little background before we let the artists take it away. Metaphors of Recent Times is an exhibition that was created through a call for art, which Photo Alliance traditionally does once a year, is as create opportunities for fellow photographic artists to participate in an in-person exhibition. And so through a folio called Insight, curated by Linda Connor in 2020 in celebration of the 20th anniversary of Photo Alliance, she had curated a folio of 20 photographs by various artists that had been a part of Photo Alliance in the past. And that's really the nucleus. Those 20 photographs were put out there for the call for folks to then submit triptychs. So 3 works of theirs in response to the broader themes that we're speaking to, personal, political, social, elements going on these days. So really some of those themes might have blossomed in 2020 or much longer ago, and some are, very new and current. So this really was inviting many voices in, including Lance and Annie's work. So it was really nice to be able to show 3 pieces, 3 individual works by each artist to give a further breadth of their work. So in that vein, I do want to be sure that everyone knows these are 2 of 43 participating artists, Lance and Annie. And, Annie was a BFA from SFAI in 2010, and Lance a BFA in 1992, myself 2005. And I wanted to give the artist the opportunity to speak to the work in the show. So here are Annie's, and I'll ask her to introduce herself and then speak to the work in the show. Um, and Lance, I'd like you to also introduce yourself. Maybe Lance, if you want to go ahead first and introduce yourself, just a little personal background as you as an artist, and then Annie, you can jump into your work if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Lance, if you want to share a bit about you, so everyone knows.
For sure. Hi, I'm Lance Shields. I am an SFAI alumni from way back in the 90s. It's kind of like Back to the Future. And I'm first of all, I just want to give thanks to Beth for curating this and the rest of the Photo Alliance and SFAC for putting this on. I'll share my work later on, but I'm a photographer here in San Francisco. And before that, I was kind of an installation artist, which I'll share more later with you guys. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Annie.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Beth, for inviting me to this. So I'm an artist and I'm from Finland. So I'm working as a photographic artist, and I can introduce my work with my like when you show the rest of the my works, I write down something, so it takes about 4 to 5 minutes. But maybe if you can show the other works, so I can speak more then. So would
sure.
it?
Do you want to start with those?
Yes, maybe. Well, if that's okay for you.
Yeah.
So okay. So okay. So if you like, I write down something from this series. Is that okay? If I write, it takes like 5 minutes. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. So So I like to begin by reading the description of my works a bit. So and please Beth, let me know if I am going too long or something. So then I have some comments and ideas of Lance's works as well, and another artist from the show. So from this series, this is like as a child, I had a deep word of imagination, and I believe that's why I photograph children. I have 3 children of different ages whom I've been photographing for some time. As they've grown older, they've become more serious. And I, as both a mother and an artist, observe their presence. For me, the images are a gift. The photographic process is deeply personal and sensitive. It requires technical skill, thought, and emotion. As my mother once said, Anni is the queen of drama. Perhaps that's part of what helps me in the process. And I also think working with children is difficult. One moment they are present, and then the next they've disappeared, and the moment disappears beyond reach. In that narrow window of time, I have to tidy the space, open the blinds to let in every bit of natural light, check the edges of the photo frame so nothing too distracting remains. Make sure nothing too white stays in the picture, accept the have to direct the moment and help the children understand that now they must help their mother. As a photographer, I carry the guilt that comes from giving orders, and then in the very next moment, take the picture. Child asks where she wished to look as she were flying. The child laughs. The photographic act itself is in the moment I see that there's a photograph here, and then I kind of respond. Between those moments, I practice, I read, study, think, write, have conversations with colleagues, and I don't stage images. I kind of believe that the child in the image is me, the child who longed for my mother's gaze. My photographs are born through the mother's gaze. I am the photographer, the mother, and the child in the image is my own. But the deeper reason is the act of being to face something my own mother could not do. As when I was a child, I enchanted by the word. I played constantly. Through photography, I still become enchanted by the word. And then should I read some more, or should I?
Well, let's pause right here because
Yes.
I did want to, that's a really great overview. And I
Yes.
think as we get into Lance's work,
Yes.
we're going to be able to see some really interesting different entry points
Yes.
as your photography has such a personal embrace of your muses and also the character of the child that are very beautifully composed. And yeah, so this is an earlier series or a current but earlier series of your work that preceded the work in the show. Am I correct? Because
Yes.
the children
Yes.
are older.
Yes.
So, yeah, so it's interesting, kind of in thinking about these interior, home spaces or more intimate spaces that you have here with your children and where you're coming from too. And I did want to take a moment to look at them and also the way that you are approaching creating the photograph, is very thoughtful, even asking, like in the sense it's more not staged, but it does seem that you want to have certain conditions, right? There's a control of the light. And I'll just want to allow Lance to speak
Yes.
a little bit, and then we'll go back to your work in the show, Annie, because Lance, if you want to introduce your three pieces here that are in the show, and then we'll get into your other series too. Can you see all three pieces, or is it covered up by people?
I
You
can
can. Okay. On my screen, it's the right side is a little covered, but good, as long as everyone can see. So yeah, Lance, if you want to speak to these pieces, we're kind of going back and forth, but I like that because there's a lot of depth to thinking that way. Do you want to share with everyone about these are the three pieces in the show at City Hall?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel really fortunate to have these in the show. These are from a series called Strange Nature. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been taking photos when I travel or when I just I go places, and my I guess my eyes naturally go towards situations where nature and humans have interacted in some way, oftentimes in pretty extreme ways, such as the one in the center, which is a clear cut in Oregon, where the last three remaining trees were just standing almost like beings. And it just driving through these clear cuts with a friend of mine, we both just jumped out of the car and started snapping away. But um there's a horror and beauty in these things. And not all of them are just destruction. Some of the things are just, in the case of the bed in someone's yard in Los Angeles, is just, it's just in decay, and human artifacts with nature sort of consuming it and taking it back. I just was fascinated by that. Um, and then the right side, that's down in Princeton Jetty. If you guys ever been down there, it's the giant golf ball. But they just had a big storm and a bunch of trees got blown over, and there was this sort of like, I guess it's a post-apocalyptic sort of situation. But um, I was just fascinated by the like natural and human kind of interactions that take place in our lives, especially with the obvious things like global warming and all that. But I'm not trying to make a political statement so much as just um, a witness of the things that we see in our lives. And so that series is, there's other photographs on my site, but they kind of capture that.
Well, that's beautiful. And I just want to give each piece a moment as well, because this is, I mean, interesting. This very domestic, this bed, something on the interior is on the exterior, right? So that's curious. But both of your, approaches are very different as far as like capturing, images. So there's just such a poetic element and great composition here, and very subtle, even branding, it is, speaking to kind of the macro, the sort of exterior human condition, which is quite beautiful. And even the leaf in the forefront on the left, and the little yellow, maybe foam on the right. I mean, it has a nice, interplay going on that's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, and actually the next one, the trees, it was just sort of, it was just there. It was almost like I just stumbled on it, and it was fortunate that it was there. But I mean, I think that's what, for me, that's what photography is opportunity to find things and discover things. And I just, these are the things that sort of that draw me to them. But yeah, I mean, it was not staged at all. It was, these are things in the real world. But going out and finding them is part of the, I think, part of the process.
And were these three photographs in California? Or you mentioned this is the
So that's here, the Bay Area, just south.
Mhm.
And then the three trees were in I guess Central Oregon along the coast.
Mhm.
And up north of Newport, if you know that area. A friend of mine lives up there, and he took me on a tour of a clear cut. And he's a photographer too. And then the first one is down in Echo Park in Los Angeles. And Echo Park is an amazing place to photograph. It's very, a lot of things are kind of in a way kind of in ruin, and there's a lot of things left behind that I find just very interesting. And I do take pictures of people, but not as much as I take pictures of things, just because that's how I work, and I feel, attracted to those things. But I think the human element is sort of key to it. I'm not so much that interested in just nature photography, but so much as nature with this sort of human element, and how humans and nature kind of mix.
Yeah, we'll see that in some of your later work. Well, I think just yeah, these are great. And what I mentioned during the curatorial walkthrough in the exhibition is just how some artists brought 3 works that have more consistency and style, like Annie's, that are I'll bring up next, that are the 3 triptychs in a show, and others like yours, Lance, bring in kind of this conceptual thread, but there's still elements, you can pull out that, you're playing with foreground and background, and just this beautiful starkness. But that, it's not like 3 beds, right? But it's different. So when we are looking at the submitted works, there were over almost 300 works that were submitted, and 23 were selected for the show. And we really wanted the triptychs to speak consistently, so which could be conceptually. And I know we're going a little backwards a little bit, but a nice chance to step back into Annie's earlier work. But I did want to have a moment to focus on the 3 that are in the show. So I'll just go back a little bit, and these are the 3, and they're so stunning. They're like medium-sized works, beautifully framed. And I did want you, Annie, to speak to put these 3 specifically, since they're in our current show.
So okay, so these ones now. Yes, I think like for me, like this theme of this show, like metaphors of recent times, it really touches me, because we are like in the middle of this political and an environment crisis, and children are also part of this like word, and they are like very quiet, and they have a lot of dreams. Like my son would really love to come to San Francisco to visit again, since it's been like 10 years when he was there last time. And so I've been really like fascinated to tell of this all through my children. Also, they are really like there is so like much of this. They are watching like YouTube, and it's so full of different identities and pictures and everything. So like I'm also interested of this, how this affects, and I would really like to let them play, and I take photographs as like this is the reason I think they are really interesting subject in this exhibition too. So thank you for having this.
For sure. Well, these definitely stood out. I felt like they were very unique, and I have 2 daughters, and I definitely know the past chunk of years have been a really interesting effect. And childhood, rearing today is very different, I think, than when we grew up without the internet, et cetera. But what year did you photograph these? Like, do you remember what year?
Yeah, these are like from last year, the like 2024.
The very current. Yeah.
Yes, so this is new series of mine. So
They're beautiful. And with these, I mean, the colors are very different than the earlier series you shared,
Mm.
did you have any specific intent surrounding like the neutrality of the background?
Mm. Yes, yeah, I think there is like like I'm also studying at the Academy of Fine Arts now again. So my professor called Salatykas, he also like asked of this light. It's kind of very like in Finland we have very different kind of light that you have in San Francisco. So maybe it's like Finnish kind of identity and Finnish light. When I remember when I moved to San Francisco, I have read that Henry Wessel, who moved from New York, he was like he could always almost lean to the light in San Francisco. But if I come from Finland, like it's light is very different. So maybe this is yes part of like Finnish like quiet like identity somehow. So and I was also interested to keep the faces in the middle of the picture, so there wouldn't be anything too distractive in the picture. But yes, maybe yes, maybe that's. But I think that those are like gift for me because I only have like one picture from each of them because they
Yeah.
are like okay mom you can like have one so they're like almost like a miracle or something to happen
Yeah,
when yeah.
especially at this age, I'm sure. Well,
So,
Lance, you saw these pieces in the show. Do you want to share any reflections?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, Annie, these are just gorgeous. And I I was just thinking about the light myself, how it's just very different, and how especially I just the light on your, I think, is that your daughter on the right side, with her hair coming over her eyes. There's it's the light, and I guess the calmness, the kind of calm nature of your children, even in the first series, like they're not ripping the place up and going crazy. They're just very calm, and I guess it almost like they're thinking. You can almost feel them thinking or feeling something. And um I guess the calm nature, and I've never been to Finland. I've been wanting to go. In fact, I want to go there because I keep hearing things that it's so different there. I want to experience it. But the general mood, I think the mood caused by the light, and I guess the color itself is just really beautiful. Like the color of the lips, especially on the right photo, are just beautiful, and the blue eyes, just there's just so much beauty in your children that you've captured. And I know my daughter won't let me, take any photos, or especially post photos. That's the worst. Never post anything without ask my permission, is what I always hear. But anyway, these are really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you thank you.
Yeah, they are. They have such this classic feel, but are so, contemporary in the portraiture, right? And I do want to just take a moment. Yeah, this one goes deep into your heart.
Yeah, it's
Her
just
eye.
that look and the hair and the style and everything. Like her identity is really, so unique.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, these are fabulous. I'm curious, and it's really nice seeing earlier work, which we're going backwards in time now, which is nice because I'm gonna since we are SFAI alum, and it's a really unique thing that is bringing us together, and definitely important to keep that spirit alive. I wanted to have you share some earlier works from some student work. So we all know kind of your headspace of where you were then. So Annie, I do have these two together, and then we have them individually as well. But if you want to give us a little insight to where you were with your practice while you were in school, and speak to these pieces?
Yes, when I came to school, it was actually when I came to SFAI, it was actually through Linda Connor that I decided to apply to SFAI. I was before coming to school, I was working as an assistant to the Finnish American photographer Arno Rafael Minkkinen at his workshop in Vilnius, and he looked at my portfolio and he was like and he told me that his good friend Linda Connor is teaching at SFAI, and that would be wonderful reason for me and to apply. So I was kind of very beginning when I came to SFAI, and these are like early works. The other one is from Las Vegas. I travel a lot when we moved to San Francisco, but yes. Should I tell more of this?
Yeah. So what year did you photograph this one in? Remember?
This is in Las Vegas. Yes. And what year did you ask? Okay, 2010 maybe. Yes, this was 2010 or 2011.
Okay,
Yes.
great. This is nighttime, so it's a very different light compared to maybe the other photograph is a little more similar to where you're at now. But what were your thoughts surrounding this photograph?
So yeah, I think I was in US. I was deeply moved by like movie kind of feeling and loneliness, and I also knew a lot of photographers like Robert Frank who moved to US and make pictures there, and then I just have this feeling, and I make a lot of self-portraits back then, and then actually, and then Dennis Ledbetter, who's gallerist in San Francisco, he published a book. It looks like snow, of these self-portraits and landscapes. So it was combination of this kind of. I actually made an exhibition of this series called Resident Alien US California, because they always ask, are you a resident alien? And I also like official documents, they ask that. And I always think like, what is resident alien that you
There's an
belong?
odd phrase.
Yes. But yeah, but it's yes, maybe.
So you've been working with portraiture, self-portraiture and portraiture since you were a student.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 and yes. I first photographed myself and my husband, mostly myself, in San Francisco. We in Finland we have many very good photographers who works with self-portraits, like female photographers, like Elina Proterus or EU Susi Raja, or we have strong history in Finland if you want to look at the internet. So maybe I was kind of part of that, and at the same time I always made these kind of self-portraits. Maybe we were kind of, I don't know, were we alone first, but then it changes, and I have really had really good friends in San Francisco. But
Was
yes,
this taken, the lighting here is from San Francisco, correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it's quite beautiful.
Yes, I once take it like when I went back to Finland before that, because like through my photographies I have a lot of this emotional things, so I want to capture that, and I actually wrote from lenses, like photograph this this especially of the piece of the bed shown in the exhibition deeply moves me, like always this kind of it's I think it's a powerful metaphor for humanity, and in his image the human weight has been replaced by leaves, the experience of absence is profound. Yeah, and then the red fabric ties the image to art history and these kind of too. I think there is a lot of art history in this picture too, like like the first self-portrait ever taking, like who, I don't remember the name, but it was self-portrait as drowned or something like.
Ophelia. Yeah, Ophelia with
Yeah.
drowned Ophelia. Yeah, no, that's an interesting context. Well, there is this sort of I do go there, like the sense of some when I'm looking at your photographs, it does feel like it's calling to some art historical sort of presentations, and yeah, it's interesting you bring that up here. That's a nice reference, and one that is, um, it's heavy and it's beautiful. Yeah, and just the simplicity of the white. Also, again, your background's very controlled here.
Yeah, I like how the curtains sort of carry the light, the light from outside. It almost feels like it's like bringing the light down to your face, like a spotlight almost. Just something just really elegant about the shape of the curtain, and then how it kind of extends across the body, and then it gets dark towards the right side. It's this sort of like motion of light, and the curtain was just a really interesting way to get a portrait. I don't know. I definitely like that part of it. It also kind of conceals your face in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. And we do have to, you shared this wonderful photo of Linda Connor. I don't know if you're on the Zoom because I can only see a few faces, but Linda is the founder of Photo Alliance, professor emeritus of SFAI, and the reason why Photo Alliance has been here like 25 years. So this is a great shot of Linda, and so thankful. Yeah, she's amazing. If you haven't met her yet, come to more of our Photo Alliance events because she always is sharing a moment. And I know she's been such an important professor for many have come to the Art Institute to study with her. But Lance, you were saying, so what did you study? Were you doing photography at SFAI? Because you have some installation work, but I know it's very open at SFAI. So usually, even in my sculpture classes, we had photographic presentations. So tell me a
No,
little bit about.
sadly, I never took a photography class. And I took a lot of other classes, but for some reason I didn't. And I feel sad now now that I take photos.
Go
But
back.
I know, but I mean, I was always interested in photography ever since I was a little kid, and my start came from my science teacher who was my next door neighbor, and Mr. Benson, he taught me about photography and taught me how to develop and all that, and so I did it as a child all the way through like up into college. But then when I got into college, it just shifted towards installation and conceptual art and sculptures and things. And so I'll show some of those in a minute. But yeah, sadly I didn't. And I just did a lot of work that involved spaces and how to use the space in different ways, which I think kind of might have influenced my photography. More situational things in the space. And so this series, do you want me to talk about this series, Beth?
Yes, please. Yeah,
Okay.
and then we have your earliest work towards the end.
Yeah, it's kind of completely shockingly different. So I thought that was fun. So this, I did a series last year where I had my sabbatical. I had a job at Adobe as a design director, and I had a sabbatical to travel around, and so I traveled over to Europe, and this is in Copenhagen. And on the left, at an art museum there, I guess National Art Museum in Copenhagen, which is amazing if you ever wind up there. It's a beautiful, well, it's a beautiful city, but a beautiful museum. And that for some reason I was in the lobby seeing all these people standing around and sitting, and this person lying down on this sofa surrounded by statues. And kind of like the statues framing people and in different ways was just strange. And in this person sleeping, it's funny that Annie's last picture showed someone sleeping, and now this shows someone sleeping. And I just was just kind of grabbed by these porcelain legs. And so like when you look at it, you don't realize it's a statue, it might be a person, or it's confusing. But this whole series, these two would come from a series called Fragments, and it's about people in kind of cities and in a kind of reflective nature or a kind of solitude, surrounded by just the cities. And the cities that I went to, I guess, were they were in Copenhagen, Manchester, England, London, and Barcelona, and very different cities, but I was a stranger to them all. And so like experiencing the people framed by their cities in different ways, I guess was what I was doing. Like I haven't really fully invest a lot of time in thinking about a concept, but this idea of people are just one part of a story of a city, and that's these fragments that make up these places are these individuals. And so yeah, so that was kind of what I was doing with these. And these are digital photos. I take digital and film. And I was, spending a lot of time walking and looking and trying to feel what these cities felt like to me. And this is in Manchester, England, which is very urban feeling and very industrial, and just has this other kind of light that's very different than San Francisco. That it just feels very concrete and heavy. And when I saw this girl sitting there looking at her phone early in the morning, I just felt like this is just a moment that she's having by herself in this big city, concrete city, and I just happened to see her and felt so lucky. Of course, the graffiti and a feeling of like grunginess, I guess, that was interesting. But then, the colors of the city were very, subdued, and it was kind of cool. Exactly. So that's about it. Yep.
Yeah, no, these are great. Well, it's interesting looking at the framing and like what's in the foreground and even this pop of red just like on your bed. And then like, of course, all of these elements in the foreground really framing, the nice kind of layers of the foreground, middle ground, and background are very, kind of apparent, which is the case in the three works in the show. So, yeah. This is great. Good. Well, and then this is another series that you shared. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. So this one actually had a specific kind of photo challenge or concept that I was trying to actually make something around. And I encountered, I can't remember the photographer's name right now, but I was reading a book about a photographer who talked about taking photos that don't have names. And this idea of like trying to photograph without using any kind of human language or any kind of like, just like if you couldn't write a description about the photograph, like just finding things in the world that were not, you couldn't verbally describe. And so I was trying to do that and force myself to see things that weren't that kind of thing. Like didn't have a narrative or didn't have, and you could probably make up a story about anything, but it was almost like I was in a photo class, and the assignment from the teacher was go out and shoot things that you couldn't give a name to. And so this series is called Nothing with a Name, and I did a photo zine last year around it. And the photos were, they were situational. Some of them had nature in them. Some of them had things in the world, mostly outdoors, I guess. I don't think of myself as a street photographer at all. I see myself as just capturing compositions and things that I find, I guess, visually interesting. And so the photo on the left, if it matters, is in New York City. And it was just, someone's window and their garden, and I just found it mysterious somehow. And then On the right is Tokyo, and it's multiple reflections and windows and things in Daikanyama. I used to live in Tokyo for 10 years, so I kind of have, I think, a somewhat Japanese influenced perspective on design and aesthetics, which I don't probably write much about, but I think I do. Yeah, so that's the series of Nothing What the Name Was About. It was one of my first serious series. And this was all film photography.
And was this before SFAI or after?
Oh, this was long after SFAI. So
Okay.
this was a couple years ago.
Okay, so these are pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah, so the series I shared with you are within the last 5 years. And so yeah, so these are pretty new.
And then we're gonna jump into, and I'll just kind of lay out, we have probably about 5 more minutes, and then I want to give the audience a chance to ask any questions. But this is a fun time for, well, Lance will take us through some of his work here, but just some going down memory lane and SFAI. But these were a fun surprise. And this is like the rooftop, right? The iconic top of SFAI. But so tell us about this series.
Yeah, I spent so much time on that roof, you can't believe it. And so my time at SFAI, which was like 90 to 92, I think there's probably people on this call who were, around then, but it was such a different San Francisco and a different time. And I think art was, people were jumping off the roof and breaking their legs and doing all kinds of crazy performance art. It was a crazy time. I wasn't one of the crazier people. I was more kind of messing around with materials and the space and form. I was really intrigued by form and process and creating situations. And in this one, I tried to create a sculpture where it basically was self-contained, and the string that holds the object together is basically pierced by these nails that go into the water of these jars that came from the cafe downstairs, and recycled, jars, and or juice bottles, and then they rusted. And then so I left it there for a couple weeks, and over time the water changed color and it became oranger and oranger, and you could see the nail, starting to like fall apart. But one of the things that's cool about that one was when you looked through it, you could also see, the bay. I think it was, you could see the bay in a kind of like different way. So it became like a lens in itself. And I think it might have been upside down. I can't really recall. But anyway, it was a fun piece. If you cut the string, the whole thing would fall down. That was kind of the.
Who did you study with?
So I studied with Paul Koss, a film named Al Wong, who was doing like alternative film and installations and things. Tolina Labat, I took some of his classes. But and Karen Finley, she taught me some writing, and I was really interested in words. So yeah, it was a great time to be there.
That's great. I can see some Paul Koss, ideas in there.
Yeah, I know.
This one?
I was definitely influenced by him.
Yeah.
This was right after I graduated. I moved to Osaka. My wife is Japanese, and right after I graduated, I moved to her hometown. And this was right after the big earthquake that happened in Kobe. If you remember the Kobe earthquake, and we were really shook up about it. So I made this piece called Shelter, and I wrote a story about the feeling of shelter and safety and a feeling of like your body being at risk. And I wrote it in English and Japanese, and kind of wrote around the room, over like a 3 or 4 day period. And then I bought these cheap umbrellas from the local convenience stores. I think there was about 100 of them. And then when people came in, they would carry the umbrellas and read the story. So that was kind of like I'd be there and instructing them, like, please carry the umbrella as you read the story, to sort of shelter yourself or something. Anyway, it was one of my installations that I was doing in Osaka. I was basically an installation artist for about 7 years, in my 20s, before I came back to San Francisco.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, these are really fun to see. I am going to stop the share right now. Oh, look at all the people who've joined us. Oh, this is so exciting. Great. So I couldn't see like the wonderful broad audience. And Linda, hi. Linda's here. Great. Well, I do want to check the chat and be sure to open up just an open conversation to ask questions to Lance or Annie or anything about the show or their artwork. I'm just seeing the chat here, but feel free to just unmute yourself. And I can always go back to any photos, but does anyone want to start? Well, I see some familiar names with some of the artists who are in the show. Linda?
Hi.
Hi.
So I just want to thank both of you. This has been really fun. Hi, Annie. And Annie's going to be back visiting soon, so that's good. Get her. Maybe we'll do a little local get together.
Mhm.
And Lance, maybe you could join us as well. You still live here, right?
Yeah, I live in San Francisco.
Great. Great.
Love to.
Well, wonderful, you guys. And I think the show and just not just having one picture by each artist really brought depth to the entire experience. And I think you guys knocked it out of the park. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, Lance, one more quick question. Did you study with Jim Pomeroy?
I don't know. The name doesn't ring a bell.
You wouldn't have forgotten him if you had. Yeah.
I guess not. What did he do?
He was an installation artist, performance artist, and was in the sculpture area. He was from Texas, a real character.
Oh wait, did Jim run the also the wood shop and stuff? No?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Actually, I worked for him. No, I couldn't remember the
Yeah,
last
a
name.
really big guy.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
I had a part-time job as a lab assistant in the 90 to 92. And yeah, that's right, Jim. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Great.
I see a question popped up. Thank you, Suze. She said, I love the work featured today. Can you share your thoughts about this show as compared to the earlier one, different themes or observations about the work? Well, definitely, I love the artists to share their thoughts. This is the first show of this theme. So outside of that, the folio has run as an exhibition, the 20 photographs on their own. So in the past, Photo Alliance has had Bay Area, but currently now, there was like a juried show that ran yearly. That was in San Anselmo at Smith Anderson's gallery. But yeah, what are your reflections, Lance and Annie, if you want to go first, about this exhibition from afar, I guess?
Yeah, I think I really like the selection. And I'm looking forward to see it when I come. Like, yes, but like, yes, I maybe Lance can tell more. Like,
No, you haven't seen it in person. It's a little
yes,
harder, but you'll have to see it in person when you come.
yes, but I read something like from Darcy Padilla's work. I found that like one can feel the presence of home even though it has been completely destroyed. There's something so total, so uncontrollably lost in the image, in like many like images in this exhibition. So yeah, and I was really interesting to see how it looks like from different kind of culture. So from yes. So
Thank you. Yeah, well, the space is a perfect space for this show and the intimacy of it. Lance, why don't you, I know you got to visit at least twice, so let us
Yeah.
know.
What year was the first one?
Well, as far as juried shows, Linda, how many years has Photo Alliance had the juried shows? I can remember.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, like the one that sorry, the previous one that's in the middle of the space that
Oh,
shows
the
those.
Insight 2020. Well, that came out in 2020, but I think it was first shown at Haynes Gallery and maybe 2 years ago, and then it showed at the Bolinas Art Museum, and then it showed at in Pennsylvania at Penn State. Am I correct?
Yeah,
did it?
the opening was at Haynes Gallery in 2023 in the fall,
Okay.
but the project started in 2020.
So thanks for answering that. I feel like the previous one was more race oriented and more like people from different ethnic backgrounds reacting to actually what we're experiencing right now in our political climate. The current one feels there's a lot of environmental concerns, actually a lot more fires, destruction in San Rafael, images of nature being destroyed by humans and things like that. So like the current times narratives and things don't seem to be as political in terms of humans of different backgrounds being feeling isolated or feeling violated or whatever. I think the next, if you could do another show, you're going to get that more even stronger with our current the current president. I think this was almost like a quiet before the storm. And so I thought some of the images were very calming. In my, like, Annie's were very calm and serene. I think maybe if you looked into the future, you would see a completely different show. It'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah, those are some good points. Yeah, I did feel like there was a little more like reflection because we have, well, so many things have been going on for a while, but also like we'd have some there was some time. I felt like there was a broad diversity of voices that came in though through like I felt like portraiture was very strong. It felt like there was a lot of connection to then housed and also I felt Annie's pieces spoke to gender fluidity issues, just exterior, we had portraitures of like Black cowboys, ideas of what it means, the role of women, in portraiture. So there was a very strong portraiture and also the built environment and environmental issues that came in. Yeah, so I do agree, like, what if we did another one, right? There's some pretty heated things going on right now. So I do agree with you. And I mean, this is interesting. So in a way, it was exactly a 5-year mark from when the folio initially began. So and luckily we're at a point where we're able to entertain in person. It's not like it was 5 years ago, but having an in-person exhibition is an opportunity. Yeah, good things to think about. Great. Well, I welcome any other questions or comments. You can put them in chat or just unmute yourself. We have about 5 minutes left. And the show is being extended, Christy, until August 15th?
Through
11th?
August 1st. So
First.
that's official.
I was
We're
close.
extending through August 1st. So 6 more weeks to go see it if you'd like to visit City Hall. This is a very long corridor stretching the length of City Hall downstairs, and you enter through the North Light Court.
Yeah, so it's an interesting space, a secondary exhibition space for the San Francisco Arts Commission galleries. They have their primary gallery on Van Ness, a more traditional gallery, but this one has been visited by a wider range of like non-intentional art goers, very much the public. So I think I've seen so many people linger and take their time, and because of the long corridors, we were able to put the folio, the original 2020, in the nucleus, and then there were the extended hallways off of it, which was kind of a metaphor within itself. And, you know, whether people were coming in from either of the two entrances or from upstairs, the Arts Commission did a beautiful job with really taking some of our more intimately sized photographs to the next level, like in the North Light Court, which was an amazing experience where we had the opening. Yeah, so through August 1st, it's available to see. And I think that's the nice thing, is bringing art in front of a much broader audience. And another theme that came up, which was part of our artist panel discussion, was caring and nurturing and the role of the aging too, which I feel like was significant, which is why we had 3 artists speak to it, because, you know, that is another theme that I think was able to come up more now versus say in a, you know, heated moment, because it's but I felt like it was very moving. And Judy I believe Walgreen, but she her Walgren, she had beautiful portraits, self-portraits. Correct me, Christy, if I'm saying her last name incorrectly.
You got it. It's Judy Walgren.
Walgren. Okay. And so 43 artists, trying to remember them all. But yeah, so and oh great, we're getting more comments in here. But she had reflections on her mother and herself, and it was just a beautiful triptych too. Renee, one of our artists, Billingsley, she said great news about the expansion. It's been an honor to be part of this exhibit. Thank you to Annie and Lance for your comments. And Nicola Willis says Annie was really touched by the feeling of magic, truly, and emotion in your photographs. And Lance said, I loved Pablo's Bautista's photos, and he was one of our guest speakers during the Arts Commission.
You were thinking of Judy Irani?
Irani, I'm sorry. Yes. Were there 2 Judys? I don't think there were.
Okay. Not in the show.
Okay, my apologies. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Definitely welcome any last comments or questions. And, you know, Lance and Annie, thank you so much for making the time. Linda, wanted to pop?
I just want to say we don't have all the details yet, but later in the summer or early in the fall, Photo Alliance is thinking of doing a slide slam.
Nice.
That would be open to anybody who wants to submit some images to be juried into an evening of just, you know, a barrage of various people's photographic works. Christy, do you want to add a little bit to that?
I have a note about the current show in City Hall. So if anybody is interested in meeting people to take them through City Hall to see the work, that building is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if individuals are interested in a guided tour, they should just check in with the Arts Commission in advance, and they're really happy to do that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And will you put our Instagram into the chat and our website for everyone, Christy? And yeah, that's a great way. You can sign up for a newsletter through Photo Alliance and follow us. Look, wow, Zoom's gotten very advanced. So I've never experienced that before, but thank you, everyone. Please reach out to us and let us know your thoughts and join us. We have a lot of exciting events throughout the year, lectures, and our benefit dinner, which is almost sold out. I think there's one more ticket on Thursday. So
There's
if you want
only
to join
one.
us, we'd love to see you.